The next morning, Ray sat beside the alien girl in the hidden cargo bay. She was still unconscious, breathing softly. Her skin looked smoother now, and the glowing lines on her arms pulsed slowly like a machine waking up. Ray hadn't slept all night. He kept thinking about her last words. "You saved me." He didn't even know her name. Ray had broken a dozen military rules by bringing her here. But somehow, he didn't care. Something about her felt important, like she wasn't just any alien. He checked her pulse again, still steady. Suddenly, her fingers twitched. Then, her eyes opened slowly. Ray stepped back. Her glowing violet eyes locked onto him. She sat up fast, gasping. Her hands moved in the air like she was trying to cast a shield or summon a weapon. "It's okay. You're safe," Ray said quickly, hands raised. She looked around the dark bay, breathing hard. Her voice was cold. "Where am I? Who are you?" Ray took a step forward. "I found you in your ship. You were hurt. I brought you here." Her eyes narrowed. "Earth base." Ray nodded. She pressed a button on her wrist. A small hologram blinked but showed static. "Shouldn't be alive," she whispered to herself. "They should have finished me." Ray watched her, confused. "Who's they?" She didn't answer. Her hands touched her legs, still wounded. Her fingers glowed for a second, and the bleeding stopped. The wound closed itself. Ray's eyes widened. "You healed it? Like magic?" She shook her head. "Not magic. Tech." He was about to ask more when alarms suddenly flashed in Ray's earpiece. "Unknown ship approaching. Unauthorized scan detected." Ray ran to the bay window and saw a large, dark ship moving silently above the outpost. Same shape as the one that scanned them last night. He turned to the girl. "Are they looking for you?" She didn't answer at first. Then softly, "Yes. If they find me, you'll die too." Ray clenched his jaw. "Then we need to move." She stood, weak but alert. "Why are you helping me?" Ray paused. "You were alone. Because I had to." She looked at him strangely, like no one had said that to her before. He handed her a military jacket. "Wear this. We'll hide you better." As they moved through the lower tunnels of the base, she kept looking over her shoulder. "Your people hate mine," she said suddenly. "You don't even know what I am." Ray stopped walking. "Then tell me." She hesitated. "I'm Varelian." Ray's eyes widened. That name wasn't just alien, it was a ghost. Varelians were believed to be extinct after the Black Nebula War decades ago. Earth's history books said they vanished without a trace. "They said your people were wiped out," Ray whispered. "They were." "Almost all," she replied. "I'm the last, I think." They reached a storage room deep in the base. Ray locked the door behind them. She sat on a crate, breathing hard. "You're safe here for now," said. "No one is safe," she replied. "Not with them watching." Ray pulled up an old metal chair. "Can I at least know your name?" He looked at him for a long moment, then finally spoke. "Alira." Ray nodded. "I'm Ray." They sat in silence for a while. Suddenly, Alira turned and stared at Ray's hands. "You touched me," she said. "No one has done that since the war." Ray looked down at his hands. "I just wanted to make sure you were alive." She reached out slowly, her fingers brushing his knuckles. "These hands, they didn't hurt me. It's rare." He didn't move. Then, from outside the room, a soft click was heard like a sensor activating. Alira's eyes went wide. "They found me." Ray jumped to his feet and grabbed his blaster, but Alira shook her head. "Guns won't stop them." Ray looked her in the eyes. "Then what will?" She stood, stepped closer, and said one word. "Run." Ray didn't wait. The moment Alira said run, he opened the back hatch and pulled her into the dark hallway. His heart was beating fast. The base was quiet, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. Footsteps echoed in the distance, heavy, robotic steps. Not human soldiers, something else. They're already inside, Alira whispered. Ray guided her through the maintenance tunnels under the outpost. It was the only way to reach the hangar without being seen. The lights above flickered as if reacting to the intruder's energy. Alira held her hand out, and a soft blue light appeared, lighting their path. These tunnels are weak, If they shoot down here, we won't survive. Ray gave a dry smile. Thanks for the good news. They reached the end of the tunnel. A ladder led up to the hangar's lower floor. Ray climbed first and peeked through the metal grate. 3 tall figures in black armor were scanning the area. Their eyes glowed red. They're not human, Ray whispered. They're called Void Hunters, Alira said. They were created to hunt down my kind. Great, Ray muttered. Why do they want you so badly? She didn't answer. Ray looked around and spotted a small, fast ship in the corner of the hangar, scout-class dropship, fast enough to escape. But getting to it wouldn't be easy. He turned to Alira. You said you could make light. Can you make a distraction? She nodded. Ray pulled out a small flash grenade. On my mark, he counted. 3, 2, 1. Now, Alira raised her hand. A bright blue flash exploded from her palm, filling half the hangar with blinding light. At the same time, Ray threw the grenade in the opposite direction. It burst with a loud bang. The Void Hunters turned, confused for a moment. Ray grabbed Alira's hand. They ran across the floor, boots slamming against metal. Lasers fired behind them, barely missing. Ray opened the ship's door, pushed Alira inside, and jumped into the pilot's seat. Hold on. The engines roared as the ship lifted. A blast hit the side, but didn't stop them. The dropship burst through the hangar doors, flew into the sky, and disappeared into the stars. Ray let out a breath. We are not safe yet, Alira looked back. They'll follow. The ship shook. On the screen, a larger enemy ship appeared, black, silent, and full of weapons. They locked onto us, Ray shouted. He turned the ship toward the moon's rings, a wide asteroid field filled with ice, rock, and debris. We're going in. Alira grabbed the seat. You'll never make it through that, Ray grinned. Watch me. He flew straight into the field. The dropship dodged giant rocks and spinning ice chunks. The enemy ship tried to follow, but was too big to move quickly. Ray flipped switches, dodging debris. One large asteroid nearly crushed them, but he spun the ship under it just in time. Still with me, he shouted. Alira nodded, barely. Behind them, the enemy ship fired a missile. It chased them through the field. Ray flew low, then suddenly pulled up. The missile hit a large ice wall and exploded. They made it through. Ray set the ship down on a small moon, covered in trees and strange, glowing plants. It was dark and silent. They stepped outside. The air was breathable. The trees shimmered in the wind. Ray looked at Alira. Now, you want to tell me what's really going on? She sat on a rock, breathing hard. I wasn't just anyone on that ship. I am the last daughter of the Varelian royal family. Ray froze. Royal. She nodded. My people ruled 5 star systems until humans feared us. War began. Everyone died. I escaped, and now they hunt me. Ray sat beside her. I didn't fight in that war. I was just a child. Alira looked down. But you saved me, even when you didn't know who I was. Looked at his hands. I didn't need to know. You were in pain. That was enough. She smiled slightly. These hands, no, they don't feel like war. For the first time, Ray saw something in her eyes. Not fear, not power hope, but far above. The enemy ship still searched, and war was not over yet. Ray didn't wait. The moment Alira said run, He opened the back hatch and pulled her into the dark hallway. His heart was beating fast. The base was quiet, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. Footsteps echoed in the distance, heavy, robotic steps. Not human soldiers. Something else. They're already inside, Alira whispered. Ray guided her through the maintenance tunnels under the outpost. It was the only way to reach the hangar without being seen. The lights above flickered, as if reacting to the intruders' energy. Alira held her hand out, and a soft blue light appeared, lighting their path. These tunnels are weak. If they shoot down here, we won't survive. Ray gave a dry smile. Shh, thanks for the good news. They reached the end of the tunnel. Kay. A ladder led up to the hangar's lower floor. Kay climbed first and peeked through the metal grate. 3 tall figures in black armor were scanning the area. Their eyes glowed red. They're not human, Ray whispered. They're called Void Hunters, Alira said. They were created to hunt down my kind. Great, Ray muttered. Why do they want you so badly? She didn't answer. Ray looked around and spotted a small, fast ship in the corner of the hangar, a scout-class dropship, fast enough to escape. But getting to it wouldn't be easy. He turned to Alira. You said you can make light. Can you make a distraction? She nodded. Ray pulled out a small flash grenade. On my mark, he counted. 3, 2, 1. Now. Alira raised her hand. A bright blue flash exploded from her palm, filling half the hangar with blinding light. At the same time, Ray threw the grenade in the opposite direction. It burst with a loud bang. The Void Hunters turned, confused for a moment. Ray grabbed Alira's hand. Go. They ran across the floor, boots slamming against metal. Lasers fired behind them, barely missing. Ray opened the ship's door, pushed Alira inside, and jumped into the pilot's seat. Hold on. The engines roared as the ship lifted. A blast hit the side, but didn't stop them. The dropship burst through the hangar doors, flew into the sky, and disappeared into the stars. Ray let out a breath. We're not safe yet, Alira looked back. They'll follow. The ship shook. On the screen, a larger enemy ship appeared, black, silent, and full of weapons. They locked onto us, Ray shouted. He turned the ship toward the moon's rings, a wide asteroid field filled with ice, rock, and debris. We're going in. Alira grabbed the seat. You'll never make it through that. Ray grinned. Watch me. T flew straight into the field. The dropship dodged giant rocks and spinning ice chunks. The enemy ship tried to follow, but was too big to move quickly. Ray flipped switches, dodging debris. One large asteroid nearly crushed him, but he spun the ship under it, just in time. Still with me? He shouted. Alira nodded. Barely. Behind them, the enemy ship fired a missile. It chased them through the field. Ray flew low, then suddenly pulled up. The missile hit a large ice wall and exploded. They made it through. Ray set the ship down on a small moon. It's covered in trees and strange, glowing plants. It was dark and silent. They stepped outside. The air was breathable. The trees shimmered in the wind. Ray looked at Alira. Now, you want to tell me what's really going on? She sat on a rock, breathing hard. I wasn't just anyone on that ship. I am the last daughter of the Varelian royal family. Ray froze. Royal? She nodded. My people ruled 5-star systems. Until humans feared us. War began. Everyone died. I escaped. And now they hunt me. Ray sat beside her. I didn't fight in that war. I was just a child. Alira looked down. But you saved me, even when you didn't know who I was. Ray looked at his hands. I didn't need to know. You were in pain. That was enough. She smiled slightly. These hands, they don't feel like war. So for the first time, Ray saw something in her eyes. Not fear, not power hope, but far above. The enemy ship still searched and war. was not over yet. The jungle moon was quiet, but something in the air felt heavy like a storm was waiting. Ray and Alira sat near a small fire hidden between glowing trees. The dropship was damaged during the escape and couldn't fly now. Ray checked the engine one more time, then sighed. We're stuck here for now. Alira sat with her knees pulled close. She was silent, watching the fire. Do you think they'll find us? Ray asked. She nodded. They always find me. Ray sat beside her. Then we'll fight. She looked at him. You speak of fighting so easily, but you don't know what they are. I know enough, Ray said. They hurt you. That's enough for me. Alira looked at Ray's hands against card. Strong, yet gentle. My people called humans monsters, she said softly. But your hands, they don't feel like a monster's hands. Ray smiled weakly. They've held guns more than anything else, but they've never touched someone like you. Suddenly, a loud roar came from the trees. Ray jumped to his feet and pulled out his blaster. Stay behind me. From the shadows, a huge jungle beast appeared, tall as a tank, with 6 legs and glowing red eyes. It growled and charged. Ray fired, but the shots only slowed it. The creature knocked him to the ground, claws cutting into his shoulder. Alira screamed. She ran to Ray, her hands glowing bright blue. She touched his chest, and a wave of energy pushed the beast back. The creature roared and ran off into the woods. Ray lay on the ground, pleading and shaking. What was that? Alira pressed both hands on his wound. Stay still. A blue light covered his shoulder. Slowly, the bleeding stopped. The skin closed. Ray gasped. Didn't even hurt anymore. You healed me, he whispered. It's old Varelian tech, she said. Only royal blood can use it. Ray sat up slowly. Then I owed the royal family my life. She smiled a little. You saved mine first. There was silence between them. Then she said, I've seen hands that destroy, kill, and burn. But yours, they saved, protected, healed. Ray looked down. His hands were shaking. I don't feel like a hero. Alira touched his hand again. Gently. These hands don't need to feel like a hero, she said. They already are. Kay looked into her eyes and saw something he didn't expect. Trust. For the first time, she wasn't afraid. A soft beep came from her wrist. She tapped it. A small image appeared in an old Varelian map with a red dot blinking. There's an old beacon not far from here, she said. It's ancient, but it might still work. If I can reach it, I can send a message. Maybe call for help. Ray stood. Dan, let's go. They packed quickly and moved through the jungle. Strange lights danced in the trees. Small creatures watched from above, but nothing attacked. They reached a cliff where broken ruins stood. A tower made of crystal and stone stood in the center, covered in vines. Alira walked toward it, placing her hand on the stone. The tower lit up, the vines fell off. The crystals began to glow with bright white light. This is the beacon of Varel, she said. Only someone with royal blood can activate it. Ray watched, amazed. It's beautiful. She walked to the center, placing her palm on a panel. A light circle appeared beneath her feet. Ray looked around nervously. Won't this alert your enemies too? Yes, she said. But we have no choice. Sadly, the sky darkened. Above them, a black ship appeared, blocking the sun. Ray aimed his blaster. Too late. They're already here. Alira turned to him, eyes glowing. Then we fight. Ray loaded his weapon, standing beside her. Gather. The sky above the jungle moon turned dark. A giant black ship hovered quietly, its red lights glowing like the eyes of a monster. It made no sound, but the air grew heavy. Birds flew away. The trees stood still. Ray held his blaster tight, standing. beside Alira, near the old crystal beacon. "They found us," he said. Alira didn't move. Her hand was still on the beacon's glowing panel. "It's just a little longer. The signal is almost ready." Ray looked up. "We don't have time." From the ship above, 3 void hunters dropped to the ground, landed like shadows tall, armored and silent. Their weapons glowed with deadly energy. Alira whispered, "Keep them away from the beacon. I must finish the activation." Ray nodded. He ran forward and fired. The first blast hit one of the hunters in the chest, staggered, but didn't fall. The others spread out, surrounding them. Ray ducked behind a broken pillar and kept firing. The hunters shot back, lasers slicing through stone. One blast hit Ray's arm. He gritted his teeth and kept going. Alira stayed calm at the beacon. Her eyes were closed now. The light around her grew brighter, her hair floating with energy. Then suddenly, the beacon sent out a pulse of light, shooting into the sky like a tower of fire. The enemy ship reacted instantly, pulling back, but not before one of the void hunters charged at Alira with a blade. Ray saw it too late. Alira. He ran toward her, diving between her and the blade. The blade hit Ray's side, cutting deep. He screamed and collapsed. The hunter raised its weapon again, but Alira opened her eyes. A blast of raw energy exploded from her body, sending the hunter flying backward into a wall. The armor cracked and the machine stopped moving. Alira dropped beside Ray. "No, no, no. Stay awake." Ray's shirt was soaked in blood. He tried to smile. "Did we win?" "Not yet," she said. Her hands glowed, pressing over his wound. The healing light worked, but slower this time. "You used too much power," Ray whispered. "I don't care," Alira said. "You protected me again." "Why?" Ray looked into her eyes. "'Cause that's what these hands do. They protect." A single tear rolled down her cheek. She whispered something in her own language and pressed her forehead to his dot. Just then, a sharp beep echoed through the air. The beacon's panel lit up bright green. Alira turned quickly. The signal had been sent, but a message returned. Her eyes widened. This is impossible." "Okay." Ray sat up slowly, holding his side. "What happened?" She stared at the glowing symbols. "The signal reached someone, but not my people. They're all gone." "Then who answered?" Ray asked. She hesitated. "The ancient core, forgotten part of my people's empire. I didn't think it still existed." A second later, a new voice filled the air, deep, powerful, and not human. "Royal blood confirmed. Defense protocols awakening." Suddenly, the ground shook. Trees split apart. The ancient ruins around them began to move, unfolding like a machine coming alive. Hidden weapons rose from the earth. Shields activated in the air. Drones shaped like birds flew from the jungle, scanning the sky. Ray stared in shock. "What is this?" Alira stood slowly. This is Verelian legacy. The last defense, hidden for 1,000 years." The remaining 2 void hunters tried to attack again, but were instantly destroyed by the automated defenses. Ray stood beside Alira, eyes wide. "You woke up something huge." She nodded. "This place, it remembered me." The first time, Ray saw her not as a scared survivor, but as a true heir to a lost empire. But the moment was cut short. A new alert blinked on the beacon. Alira read it, and her face turned pale. "What now?" Ray asked. She swallowed hard. A signal didn't just reach this place. It echoed far, across space. Others heard it too. "Good guys or bad guys? I don't know," she whispered. "But war may come because of this." Ray looked at her hand resting on the beacon. "Then we'd better be ready." She looked at him, slowly reaching for his hand. "Then promise me," she said. "These hands will stay beside me no matter what comes." Ray nodded. "I promise." The ancient Virelian ruins were alive, now full of glowing energy, floating. Drones and defense walls rising from the ground. It looked like a city waking up after a long sleep. But even with all this power, Alira didn't feel safe. The beacon had sent a signal across the galaxy, not just to allies, but to anyone listening. Enemies were coming. Ray stood at the edge of the ruins, watching the skies. His side still hurt from the blade wound, but he stayed alert. His blaster was fully charged. His heart was ready. Alira walked. To him, her silver eyes serious. "They'll come in large numbers this time," she said. "We can't stop them alone." Ray looked at her calmly. "We won't run either," she frowned. "You could leave. You're human. We might not chase you." Ray shook his head. "I didn't stay with you because I had to. I stayed because I chose to." Alira looked down at his hand scarred, strong, and now stained with her blood too. She gently took them in hers. "Then I'll fight with you," she said. Ray smiled. Together, suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the jungle sky. A massive black warship broke through the clouds. It was much larger than the last one, covered in armor and red lights. Behind it, smaller ships followed like a swarm of insects. Ray's eyes widened. "That's a full fleet." Alira turned toward the beacon. "Activate full defense." The ruins responded to her command. A shield dome appeared over the entire area. Drones circled the sky like birds of war. Old turrets rose from the ground, aiming at the ships above. The battle had begun. Laser fire rained down from the enemy ships. The Virelian shields blocked the first few blasts, but the force shook the ground. Ray ran to the front gate of the ruins. He positioned himself behind a stone wall and fired at the incoming enemy soldiers. They were not just machines, now real. Soldiers had come too, with faces covered in armor and eyes burning with hate. Ray didn't stop. He kept firing, moving, fighting. Even when they shot back, even when his arm burned, he didn't fall back. Alira watched from the tower. Her heart was heavy. This human was giving everything to protect the people that once called his kind enemies. She closed her eyes, placing both hands on the ancient panel. "Open the final protocol." A deep voice echoed again. "Final defense activated." "Royal approval confirmed." A beam of pure white light shot from the beacon into the sky. Enemy ships exploded in midair. The jungle shook, but the light caused something. It drained Alira's strength. She collapsed to her knees. Gasping, Ray saw her fall and ran to her side, even as fire lit up the battlefield behind him. "Alira." She looked up at him. "Used too much power." "I tried to stop them all." Ray held her close. "You did enough. Now it's my turn." She grabbed his wrist weakly. "Don't go. You'll die." Ray gently pulled her hand away and smiled softly. "I'm not the kind of human who runs." He stood, turned toward the front lines, picked up his weapon. Then he walked straight into the fight. Enemy soldiers fired at him. But he moved fast, using ruins for cover, dodging blasts, returning fire. His aim was perfect. His will was unbreakable. One soldier got close to close. Ray fought hand to hand, using fists, elbows, anything he could. Blood ran down his face. His armor cracked, but he didn't stop. Above him, the enemy fleet began to fall back. The beacon's light was burning through their systems. Ray looked up as the last enemy ship started smoking. Explosions rocked the sky. Finally, it was over. Ray collapsed to his knees, covered in blood and dust. Alira ran to him, holding him in her arms. "You came back?" she said. Ray gave a weak smile. "Told you, I don't run." She looked at his hands, broken, but still trying to protect. "These hands," she whispered, "they never let go, even when everything else does." The battle was over. Smoke floated in the air. The jungle was quiet again. Enemy ships had been destroyed or forced to retreat. The ancient Varelian beacon still glowed, but softly now, like it had finally found peace. Ray lay on the ground, barely able to move. His armor was broken. His body was covered in wounds, bruises, and blood, but his heart was still beating. Alira knelt beside him. Tears rolled down her cheeks, glowing under the moonlight. "Ray, can you hear me?" she whispered. He opened one eye and gave a weak smile. "Still here." She gently touched his cheek. "You didn't leave me. I told you," Ray whispered. "These hands, they don't run." Alira pressed her forehead to his. "You saved me again. No, you saved more than me. You saved what was left of my people." From above, small ships began to descend, this time not enemies. They were Varelian rebel ships, survivors. The signal from the beacon had reached them across the stars. Hidden colonies, scattered fleets, families who thought the royal bloodline was gone now. They were coming home. One of the ships landed near the ruins. A group of Varelians stepped out, dressed in silver and gold armor. They bowed deeply when they saw Alira. "Princess Alira," their leader said. "The bloodline lives." She stood tall, her voice calm but strong. "Not because of me, because of him." She pointed to Ray, who was now trying to sit up with her help. The Varelian warriors looked at him with surprise and respect. Alira walked over, took Ray's hands, and raised them up for everyone to see. "These hands," she said, her voice clear, "do not belong to a destroyer. They belong to the soldier who saved me and saved all of us." Everyone stood in silence for a moment, looking at the broken human who fought like an army. Then the Varelians bowed to him. Ray looked confused. "What are they doing?" Alira smiled. "They're thanking you." "I'm just a soldier," he said softly. "No," she replied. "You're the one who showed us that even after war, there can be peace." Later, Ray was taken into the rebel ship's med bay. Varelian healers used their advanced tech to treat his wounds. In just a few hours, his body felt stronger. The pain faded, but the memories didn't. He stood by a large window, looking at the stars. Alira joined him. She wore a new robe royal, shining like the light of a new beginning. Ray turned to her. "So, what now?" She looked out the window. "We rebuild. We gather our people. We make peace." "And me?" he asked. "Where do I go?" She smiled. "Wherever you want. But if you choose to stay, there will always be a place for you by my side." Ray looked at her quietly. "You mean as a soldier?" She shook her head. "As the one who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself." He didn't answer right away. He looked at his hands, healed now, but marked forever. "I've seen too much war," he said. Alira nodded. "Then maybe it's time you help build something better." Ray smiled. "Yeah, maybe it is." The days that followed, word spread across the galaxy. The lost princess had returned. The Varelian legacy was alive. More importantly, it had changed. The Varelians were no longer a hidden empire. With Ray's help, they opened communication with human leaders. Talks of peace began. A new era slowly started to take shape. Ray walked through the old ruins, now being restored. Children played among the stones. Flags of unity were being raised. Alira walked beside him. "Everything is changing," she said. Ray nodded. "And you're the reason?" "No," she replied softly. "We are." She stopped and faced him. "I took your hands once, when I was scared and broken, okay? Said they belonged to the soldier who saved me." Ray looked at her gently. "I remember." "Okay." She held his hands again. "But now, I believe they belong to something even more powerful." He raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" She smiled. "A man who helped save a star and helped it shine again." Ray didn't answer. He just smiled, held her hand tighter, and looked at the sky above, filled with stars, filled with hope.